A quick listener note. This episode discusses exploitation, including sexual exploitation. Please take care of yourself and use discretion as you decide whether to listen in. If you suspect that you or someone you know is experiencing human trafficking, you can call the U.S. National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text HELP to 233-733. You are not alone, and help is available.
What's up?
Where you go?
Just waiting for friends.
After where you go? I know. I am driving.
You driver?
Yeah.
No, we're hanging out here.
Yeah.
He's meeting me here.
Huh?
Friend is coming here.
Oh yeah, but after I know after where you going?
I don't know yet. I don't know.
I know the food one tonight.
You know what?
Yeah, I know the food place.
Where's the best?
What you want? You want a party? You want a ready? You want a big show?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, but the good. Yeah, very good.
I'm not at all surprised by the words flowing out of the mouth of this tuk-tuk driver as he motions toward the nearby alley full of bars with young girls hovering at their entrances. I clocked him from across the intersection we're both now standing at, right in the heart of Bangkok. During the day, this corner is a hub for commercial activity and commuter traffic. But at night, it shapeshifts into a party scene with any vice desired available if you just know the right questions for the right person. A person like this driver.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's just like over here though, right?
No. Yeah, danger. So many lady boys.
Yeah, a lot of lady boys.
But danger. Lady working around here, illegal.
Okay.
Yeah. This for the company woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you want, you can take.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you know. Wait for my friend.
He shoves a paper menu into my hand, displaying an array of young women striking provocative poses in various states of undress. It's laminated, and that's not lost on me, because you don't laminate something that you imagine you might need to hide. See, lamination evokes permanency. This guy's out here thrusting it in the direction of tourists, primarily men, every single night. The truth is, I want him to keep talking. He doesn't know that I'm recording audio, that I need the world to understand the depravity of this situation and honestly the outright normalcy of it. This is Until Oil Free. I'm Preston Goff. Human trafficking is often talked about as though it exists in shadows, in basements, behind closed doors, in dark corners of the internet, and to be clear, it does. But it also exists under neon luminescence. It exists on laminated paper handed to you at a crosswalk. It exists in plain sight, protected not by secrecy, but by indifference. So on this episode, I'm going to take you somewhere that most people probably don't even know exists, or else they just choose not to look, and that's totally understandable. I'm going to walk you through a red light district, one of the most visible and commercialized exploitation systems on Earth. And I'm going to show you how we got here, what it costs, and why looking away shouldn't be an option. Red light districts are not new, and they are not anomalies. They are actually one of the oldest systems of organized commercial exploitation in human civilization, and they've been hiding in plain sight for centuries. Now, the term itself traces back to 19th century America. See, railroad workers would carry these red signal lanterns to brothels near the tracks so their crews could find them in emergencies. The red glow became this shorthand, a signal that a certain kind of commerce was happening behind certain doors. But the concept overall predates the name by centuries. See, in Amsterdam, the neighborhood of De Wallen, what most people today call the red light district, has been associated with sex work since the 1300s. It was a port neighborhood. Sailors would arrive after months at sea, and the economic logic was brutally simple. Where there were men with money and time, there were women available for purchase. In Japan, the Yoshiwara Pleasure Quarter was formally established in Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo, in 1617. It was originally a walled compound. Women were licensed, and the system was even regulated by the state. It operated for more than 300 years. In every case, throughout history, the pattern is the same. There's commerce, regulation, containment, a society kind of collectively deciding, we know this is happening, and we've chosen where it's allowed to happen. But what happened in Thailand is different. Because what happened in Thailand was engineered not by centuries of port economics, but by a war that most Americans have actually tried to forget. During the Vietnam War, Thailand became the staging ground for American air operations, and at the peak of the conflict, approximately 50,000 U.S. servicemen were stationed on Thai bases, and an estimated 700,000 visited between 1962 and 1976. Those men needed somewhere to go when they were on leave. The military would call it R&R, or rest and recuperation, but the soldiers had another name for it sometimes. They'd call it I&I, intoxication and intercourse. In 1967, the Thai government and the U.S. Defense Secretary signed a pact. Thailand would provide R&R destinations for American soldiers, and in return, Thailand would receive economic development support. It seemed like a great deal, but what became of that initial agreement was much darker. Patpong, Bangkok's oldest red light district, sits now on land that was originally a banana plantation, purchased by a Chinese immigrant named Luang Patpong Panish. During World War II, his son, Udon, reportedly joined the OSS, which was the precursor to the CIA. And after the war, the family transformed their land into a road lined with shop houses rented to OSS and CIA associates. By 1968, nightclubs had appeared. And by the 1970s, Patpong was considering itself a premier nightlife strip in Bangkok for foreigners. Today, Nana Plaza calls itself one of the world's largest adult playgrounds. Now, before the war, Thailand had roughly 20,000 people involved in sex work. But by the mid-1970s, that number had exploded 20-fold to 400,000. 300,000 of them estimated in Bangkok alone. And here's what the research tells us. To this day, there are 5 times more commercial sex workers in districts near former U.S. military bases than anywhere else in the country. The war ended 50 years ago, but the infrastructure it built never left. All right, now that you know the history, walk with me. On this night, I walked through streets where I passed no fewer than 1,000 women being offered for sexual services. I watched as barkeepers, often female mamasans, watched over the girls, attempting to maintain the charade that these women are there with complete agency, that this is just nightlife, just entertainment. In fact, it could even be empowering employment. But the economics, they tell a different story. Because the price points, the volume, the infrastructure, the laminated menus, this isn't just entertainment, it's a supply chain. As you're taking in the sounds of these streets from wherever you are right now, your first instinct is probably just to hear it as general nightlife. And that is really exactly what the system is designed to make you think. The warmth, the smiles, the apparent willingness of everyone on the street, all of it feels like a performance. Not because these women are inherently deceptive, I want to be clear about that, but because the performance is the system, the performance is the job, however exploitative it may or may not be. See, these women are expected to project availability and enthusiasm the way a hotel concierge is expected to project hospitality.
That's funny.
Wow. I take your friend too. Together we can come. Ready to share you boys.
Where are you from?
I'm from Tanzania. Where are you from? Me too.
Canada.
And you? Korea.
It's a good guess. It's a good guess. Have a good night.
No, baby.
Have a good night.
No.
Have a good night.
It's a role. enforced by the system that controls them in the operation, the bar owners, the mamasans, the johns, the brokers. They all understand that the entire enterprise depends on this illusion, that the whole thing is a mutual exchange between willing participants. See, in some ways, that illusion is the product. And every piece of infrastructure that is visible, the bars, the laminated menus, the tuk-tuk drivers, the short-time hotels, they exist to sustain it, to make the transaction feel like a connection. And in fact, it's convincing enough to carry men across the world to participate in it. Now, I want to be clear about something, because clarity matters when you're talking about such a crucial topic. I'm not saying that every single person in these districts is a victim of human trafficking, because that isn't true. Some women in the sex industry exercise a degree of agency, however constrained by circumstance they may be. In some situations, they've weighed limited options and they've made a calculation. What I am saying is that human trafficking, which exists on a spectrum and is sometimes agonizingly difficult to see and prove is taking place, lives within this system. It hides behind the veneer of this grand pretend game. Trafficking is woven into the fabric of the entertainment, and the system is built so that you cannot tell the difference between the woman who chose to be here and the woman who was brought here at 15 from a village in Isan because she was promised a future that her family wanted for her and that seemed like her ticket out of poverty. That's not an accident. That is the design.
We'll go a little further and find a spot to sit. Yeah.
As I walked these streets, I overheard Western men openly discussing how the short time rate for a woman at a specific bar drops to just $20 after 1 a.m. They talked about it the way you talk about happy hour pricing, just casual and comparative. They were deal seeking. I kept walking past neon-soaked doorways where girls no older than their early 20s sat on bar stools like products on a shelf, each one bathed in colored light designed to flatten their humanity into something consumable. Some feigned smiles, some didn't. A few looked like they'd rather be anywhere else on earth. And frankly, I recognize that look because I've seen it in the eyes of survivors I've sat across from in aftercare facilities as they recount their time stuck in this exact system. And here's what haunts me most about these nights. Nobody flinches. Not the tourists snapping photos of the spectacle like it's a cultural experience. Not the police officers stationed at the end of the block, literally. Not the street vendors positioned right next to a woman as she's being haggled over by a man who speaks my language and looks like my cousin. The normalcy is the crisis. Let's take a minute and follow the money, because that's what this is really about. I want you to understand the economics of trafficking specifically, who profits and how much. In 2024, the International Labor Organization published a report called Profits in Poverty. It found that forced labor worldwide generates $236 billion in illegal profits every single year. Let that number sit with you for a moment. $236 billion. That's more than the annual revenue of Microsoft. But here's the number that should stop you cold. Of that $236 billion, nearly 3/4, or $173 billion, comes from forced commercial sexual exploitation alone. There are 6.3 million people trapped in forced commercial sex on any given day. Around 80% of them are women and girls. 1.7 million are children. And the people exploiting them are generating an average of $27,252 in illegal profit per victim per year. That's 7 times more profit per person than any other form of forced labor. ILO's Director General appropriately called the number obscene, but I call it something else. I call it the reason that nothing changes. That profit doesn't evaporate, it flows somewhere. In the districts I walk through, it flows from the tourist wallet to the bar owner, to the mama-san, to the landlord, to the broker who recruited the girl in the first place. The profits from forced commercial sex are so disproportionately high because in most cases, the people being exploited are paid very little or nothing at all. They're held in often debt bondage. They have limited or no access to justice, and the money just flows up, always up. And the system is protected in part by corruption. There are officials who accept bribes from establishment owners, immigration officers who look the other way at border crossings, individuals within law enforcement who serve as sentinels of the status quo rather than disruptors of it. But I want to be careful here because what I've just described is not the whole picture. In fact, in our work at the Exodus Road, we partner with law enforcement. In fact, we depend on law enforcement, good officers and dedicated investigators and prosecutors in Thailand and around the world who are doing courageous, often dangerous work to dismantle these networks. Because the corruption is real, but so are the people fighting against it, often from within the same institutions. And we've seen what happens when that partnership works. In 2015, a mass grave was discovered in southern Thailand, and the bodies of Rohingya refugees who had been fleeing persecution in Myanmar were unearthed. They had been trafficked, held for ransom, and in some cases died from the exploitation or were specifically killed. The Exodus Road was actually involved in helping to break that case open, and the investigation led to the largest human trafficking trial in Thai history. There were 92 defendants, including politicians, police officers, and a senior army general who was ultimately sentenced to 27 years in prison. Now, that case was about labor trafficking, not sex trafficking, but it revealed the same architecture of exploitation. Vulnerable people, corrupt gatekeepers, and a system that profits from silence. But it also showed that when good law enforcement and organizations like ours work together, the system can be disrupted. As an organization, the Exodus Road has investigators on the ground in Thailand, some of which are nationals who know these districts because they've spent years living and working alongside them, building cases, gathering evidence, and partnering with law enforcement to dismantle trafficking operations. One of them agreed to sit down with me. And for security reasons, we're not going to use his real name, but I'm excited for you to get to hear directly from him about what fighting human trafficking on the ground in Thailand really looks like. Now, this conversation was recorded in Thai, but we had a voice actor translate and narrate his interview for you now.
สิ่งที่ยากที่สุดก็คือการค้นหาผู้เสียหาย
Hello, my name is Sakta. I've been working at the Exodus Road going on 9 years now. In terms of investigative work, the hardest thing is finding the victims. At the moment, victims of human trafficking can be hidden in so many different places. In tourist cities like Pattaya or the major cities in Thailand, the sex trade is very visible. You walk down certain streets and there are bars, there are entertainment venues, and it's very open. But the trafficking of minors is hidden beneath the surface. It's not out in the open. The venues that openly operate, most of them have adult workers, but the trafficking of children happens behind closed doors. So you have to know who to ask. You have to go through certain channels. There's a regular menu, what you see in front of you, and then there's also a hidden menu that you have to specifically request, and that hidden menu is where the minors are. So as investigators, we have to penetrate that layer. We have to build trust with the sellers, pretend to be buyers, and get them to offer us the hidden services. That's how we find the minors in these tourist cities. And it's challenging because it's a tourist city and the red light areas have a lot of people, a lot of foreigners, a lot of noise, a lot of activity. We have to blend in. We can't look like we're investigating. We have to look like regular customers or tourists. But at the same time, we're observing everything. Who's managing the venue? Who's bringing in the girls? Are any of them underage? What are the signs? There's always danger because if the traffickers suspect that you're not a real customer, things can go wrong quickly. And then there's the emotional side. You're walking through these places and you see young women, sometimes very young, and you know what's happening to them. And you can't just grab them and pull them out. You have to follow the process, build the evidence, and coordinate with police. That takes time. So you walk through and it's loud music and lights and people drinking and laughing. And right in the middle of all of that, there is real suffering happening. Most people who visit these places as tourists don't see it. They see the surface. They don't see what's underneath. In a recent case at a hotel, we found that the owner of the hotel had been running a sex trafficking operation from the premises. The hotel owner was using it as a front. They would bring in these victims, young women and minors, and they'd offer them to guests. The hotel looked normal from the outside, but behind closed doors, trafficking was happening. We discovered this through our investigative work, monitoring online posts, following leads, and eventually making contact with the operation. And we were able to identify minors who were being exploited at the hotel. We used investigative methods to gather the information. We found the child victims, and gradually we built this case. We collected chat records, documented the communications between the hotel owner and the buyers, identified the victims, and confirmed their ages. Once we had enough evidence, we coordinated with law enforcement. We presented the evidence to police, and they agreed that there was enough to move forward with a raid. During the operation, victims were recovered, and the perpetrator was arrested. Since the beginning, the Exodus Road has had a relationship with law enforcement officers who work on these kinds of cases. We work under their authority. We're not law enforcement. We can't arrest anyone. We can't raid a location. So we gather the evidence, we build the case, and we present it to the police. The police take it from there. They plan the operation, execute the raid, make the arrests. We support them through the process, providing information, being available for questions, sometimes accompanying them on operations. It's a partnership. We couldn't do this work without the police, and the police benefit from the investigative groundwork that we do. As for investigators, every time we go out into the field or collect evidence, we absorb a lot. We see things that are dark. We hear stories from victims, their pain, what they've been through. As investigators, we carry that with us. It stays with you. You go home and the images are still in your head. The stories are still in your ears. Over time, that can weigh on you. It's heavy. I think it's important for people to understand that investigators are affected by this work too. The people who do this work, we feel it deeply. When I see a victim who is rescued, starting to recover, starting to smile again, starting to rebuild their life, that's what keeps me going. It's like planting a seed in good soil and watching it grow. The darkness doesn't go away, but the light from those moments of freedom, it's enough to keep going.
Now, as we come back to this street in Bangkok, I want to tell you where many of these young women come from, because they don't materialize in Bangkok. There's a pipeline. Many of the women and girls who end up in these districts hail from some of the most economically vulnerable regions in Southeast Asia. Rural Thailand, northeastern provinces like Isan, and border regions of Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. These are places where poverty is having a massive effect on lives of families in general. It's the reason a family can't eat. It's the reason a girl maybe drops out of school at age 12. It's the reason a stranger's job offer sounds like the perfect opportunity. So recruitment often begins with this promise. There's a job in the city. Maybe it's described as waitressing or housekeeping. There's a recruiter, sometimes a stranger, sometimes a neighbor. They arrive in the village with money. And in some documented cases, believe it or not, a recruiter might offer a down payment to the girl's family with a promise to return when the girl is old enough to begin work. Many of these young women begin their exploitation as minors. And once they arrive, the control mechanisms lock into place, not always through physical violence, though that does exist, but more often it's subtler. Debt bondage is one of the most common. So the girl is perhaps told that she owes for her transportation, her room, her food, her clothing, the recruiter's fee. And the debt is structured in such a way so that it can never be fully repaid. Every night she works reduces the balance. Every night she doesn't because she's sick or hurt, the debt grows. It's an economic trap designed to look like an employment arrangement. Then there's other things like document confiscation, passports, national ID cards taken on arrival. Without documents, she can't leave, she can't seek legal help, can't cross a border. She becomes invisible to the systems that might protect her. Psychological manipulation is also a constant. In some cases, there's threats against her family back in the village. There's also just the application of shame. A trafficker may shame a girl with the knowledge that if she returns home, her community will know what she's done. And so isolation from anyone who isn't part of the operation is a real control tactic. And in some cases, induced dependency on drugs, on the establishment itself as the only source of shelter and food is an effective means of coercion and control. Financial manipulation rounds it out, because even when she or he, by the way, boys are involved in sex trafficking in Thailand and around the world as well, though at a much lesser degree. But even when she is paid, the money flows through channels controlled by the bar or the broker. So what do we do about it? This podcast is produced by the Exodus Road. We exist because scenes like this one shouldn't be normal, and because the women inside this system, many of whom entered it as children, deserve more than indifference. Our teams work alongside law enforcement across the globe to support the investigation of trafficking, to build the cases that lead to arrests and prosecutions, and to dismantle the networks that profit from exploitation. We also walk with survivors through trauma-informed aftercare as they rebuild their lives. I've literally sat across from young women who entered these districts as teenagers, girls from Isan, from Phnom Penh, from villages along the Mekong River, and watched them begin the impossible work of reclaiming something that was taken from them. Their sense of self, of agency, their belief that they are worth more than the transaction that they were reduced to. We also work upstream, equipping vulnerable communities to see and prevent exploitation before anyone ever experiences it, because by the time someone is sitting on a bar stool under neon lights, the system is already winning. And that's what this podcast is. This is the space where we stand face to face with human rights abuses and injustice, not from a safe distance, not in the abstract, but up close, in the field, in the courtroom, in the aftercare facility, in the village where the recruiters showed up last month. And we're going to choose to continue to do things like this, to bear witness to things the world would rather look away from. And we're going to choose together not to look away. Now, I realize this probably made you uncomfortable. If you've made it this far, you may in fact feel a bit shattered and unaware of how to pick up the pieces and move on with your day. I'm sorry for that. But thank you, sincerely, for engaging this. Because even this act, even just listening, is a form of bearing witness, and bearing witness is not passive. It's a choice. It's choosing to not look away when everything in you wants to. It's letting the reality of someone else's suffering enter into your mind, sit in your chest, and change the way that you see the world when you walk outside tomorrow. And that's what keeps me moving forward, despite the abhorrent brokenness of this world that I lay witness to every day. Not because I found some clean answer, not because the work is easy, the outcomes are guaranteed, but because we believe that when we choose to see the suffering that others endure, something shifts in us. And from that place, we become dangerous to the systems that depend on our silence. Darkness isn't inevitable. It has never been inevitable. We can deal in hope, you and I, but only when we take it on together. Only when we refuse the comfortable lie that someone else will handle it. Only when we decide that until all are free isn't a slogan. It's a standard we hold ourselves to. This has been Until All Are Free, and it's hosted by me, Preston Goff. This podcast is a production of The Exodus Road, a global anti-trafficking organization with a vision for a world where no human is ever bought, sold, or exploited. If you want to learn more about the work that we do or support it directly, you can visit us at theexodusroad.com. If this episode moved you, I want to invite you to share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it, and follow the show wherever you listen so you don't miss what's coming next. New episodes drop on Fridays. Until next time, thanks for listening.